Hi friend, welcome back. This is your Hope Coach, Destiny Sprague, and today we are on segment 7 of what I wish someone would have told me early on in my healing journey. So if you got the opportunity to watch or listen to the Healing on Purpose Everyday podcast, where I actually did segment 6, and this is on our YouTube channel right here, where you can go listen to segment 6 if you haven't already, where we talked about traumatic permission. You would have heard me talk about traumatic expressions. And so I felt so strongly that the next segment was going to be on traumatic expressions and what that is and how it affects believers in their healing journey if they're not aware of what a traumatic expression is and what it does, the levels, the depths that it affects you. And so we're going to be talking about that today. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell to be notified so that you don't miss out on any opportunities to care for your healing journey, because we are here to help you do that. We are here to help you care for you, yourself, for your relationship with God, for your relationship with others. And relationships are a huge part of the healing journey. And matter of fact, relationships have been, I would say, the number one cause for why people experience trauma in the first place. So we want to break those generational curses, those generational patterns that are not healthy. We want to remove all the toxins from our mental state, our emotional state, our physical state, and our spiritual state that are not for us but against us. So I hope this segment encourages you as you tune in and listen in. So again, our topic for today is traumatic expressions. And so as I was talking about before in segment 6, traumatic expressions are the things that are connected to, really it's the way that trauma expresses itself. So trauma can express itself through anxiety, depression, rejection, perfection. Don't know if I already said that. It's one of the ends. Fear, fear, worry, self-hatred, a lack of confidence, time procrastination, horrible time management is what I'm trying to say. Procrastination, like I said before. And there's just a whole lot of challenges. Bitterness, resentment. It's all of the challenges that that people face that are going through a difficult time and want to heal from so that they can do what they've been created to do, right? No one wants to stay stuck in something that isn't for them. And I think the majority of the healing journey is about learning and discovering what is for you and what isn't for you, and to take action on the truth that you've received, right? The truth is great, but without action, it can't actually help you manifest the things that God has for you. Because we know that creation serves a purpose, and with our words and with everything that we use, right, our senses, we attract what it is that we are giving out. Whatever you're giving out, whatever you're projecting is what you are going to receive back in return. It's like a boomerang. When you throw it back, it's going to come back to you. And that's why God has created creation, and so that, he's created us first, right? He created man. He created creation first, right? Which is the earth. And then he created man to steward the earth, right? So that means whatever we steward out of us, right? Whatever we give, whatever we pour out of us is going into creation, and it's coming back to us. Because what we reap, what we sow is what we're going to reap. What we reap is what we sow. So it's very important on our healing journey to be releasing the right things, stewarding well what it is that we want well. Because if you are connected to the wrong things, that's exactly what you're going to attract, is what I'm basically trying to say today. So emotional expressions are all the things that I said below. And the crazy part is, before I made this video, I had a client reach out, and I have permission to share this. A client that reached out and was talking about, how they felt useless and how they didn't feel like they were important, or that really the root of the cause is that they felt like they weren't good enough. And really it gets deeper than that, is that, they did not feel good enough about themselves, or they didn't feel like they were doing good enough at where they were at in life, and they felt like that they could give more, that they could do better. And as I started to talk to my client, I recognized that there was a lie operating, that they were what they had been diagnosed with. See, the client had been diagnosed with depression, and they were identifying with that depression, meaning that they thought that their character was sad, and that their character wasn't good enough, that their character, something was wrong with their character, that, so they started to take on depression as their identity. And a traumatic expression is more about, it's more about like the trauma that you've experienced and how you express that out to the world, through personality and so forth. But it's not supposed to be who you identify as. Yes, we may wrestle from anxiety and depression and fear and different things, and we wrestle, but that doesn't mean that what we're wrestling against is who we are. We're fighting for who we are. We have to remember that we're more than what we've been diagnosed with, that we're more than an illness, that we're more than the rejection we've experienced, or the fear that we've experienced, or the hatred, or just the evil, crooked things that have been done to us, that we're more than that, and that we don't identify as that. So as I was talking with the client, I asked them, I said, do you blame yourself for depression? And they said, sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. So I want to stop and ask you today, do you blame yourself for what you're going through? Maybe you're going through a divorce. Maybe your family has rejected you. Maybe your children are no longer around you, like they've decided not to have a relationship with you. Maybe when you try to communicate with the people that you love, they always have something mean to say back. Or maybe you just feel like you're not good enough because you have a goal and you haven't been able to achieve it yet. Do you blame yourself for those things? So when you start to blame yourself for something, you can really understand, right, that you can see in reality that you're blaming yourself when you are expressing that trauma, because the traumatic expression usually points back to what you're blaming. And often people are blaming themselves for what they've been through. And unconsciously, like subconsciously, people are, how do I put this? Subconsciously, people are being an enemy to themselves. So they'll say mean things about themselves, or they'll look in the mirror and they'll think they're not good enough or pretty enough, or, basically they don't like themselves to a certain point. They lack confidence in themselves that God has given them, right? Because God has created you, and He's created you with many, many keys of confidence, but it's something that we have to believe. So what you believe is what you're going to project. You're going to project that onto the world, and it's going to come back to you. So then you'll start attracting people that don't believe in you either. You'll start, and that doesn't mean the case for everybody, but it's a huge majority of people that will come into your life. They won't treat you well. And you'll start to see a mirror of how you feel about yourself. You'll start seeing that with other people. Now, of course, if you're coming amongst believers who are on their journey and they're trying to put in effort to treat others well and to treat themselves well, you're going to see a little bit differently. But people that are not willing to be on the journey, or are not at certain parts of the journey, if they don't have an understanding or knowledge of wisdom, they may subconsciously be doing the same thing, is that they're treating others how they feel about themselves, and it's projecting that and hurt people or hurting people. And so the main reason why we're talking about this today is create a different reality for you, to help you have a conscious mind of what's really happening so that you can teach your subconscious and nourish your subconscious. Remember that I said in the last segment that your conscious mind should be leading your subconscious, not your subconscious leading your conscious. Because what's happening here is that the subconscious is made up of a lot of pain. And if it can, it will control every move that you make in the conscious from your responses. This is what trauma responses are coming from. They're coming from the subconscious, and the subconscious is taking control. And it's leading people to flight, fight, freeze, fawn mode, and it's enabling people. It's basically crippling people from being able to stand up against the crooks in their life and to recognize what's for them and what's not for them, and to be okay with it. That's the thing, is that when you come to a point where you're okay with knowing that that person isn't for you, it doesn't matter to the point where it makes you feel hopeless. It doesn't take that much power and control from you that you feel like you're not even destined to be here. And you're able to operate in a peaceful way instead of a depressing or hopeless way. Instead of I give up on I give up on everything, I give up on life way. And so with these traumatic expressions, what I have found that they are affecting, that we're going to talk about here today, is our character. This is number one. This is the root of what this thing is affecting. It's affecting, and so if you want to know where traumatic expressions start affecting and crippling people, is number one, character. As I said before, as I was talking to the client, is that the client started to identify with what they have, with what has been spoken into their life. They started to identify with the generational curses that were amongst their genes, genetics. And so they thought, because I've been born with depression, that must be who I am. And so now I have to live a sad life. I have to live a hopeless life. That means I'm never going to be good enough at anything or good enough for anyone. And it starts to downplay the fact that you have authority, starts to downplay the fact that you are an overcomer, right? And that you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. I'm a firm believer that the blood of a lamb is enough to cleanse you of every genetic generational curse that has been manifested upon you because of the people and the places and things that you've been exposed to. So the whole point of why trauma expressions come in the first place is because of exposure. There's been something that has exposed you to this thing, and maybe you were in a vulnerable position and you received it, right? So for example, the mother's womb, right? When a baby is in the mother's womb, it's a very vulnerable position. The baby is relying on the mother for everything, right? When we think about conception, in order to make a baby, there needs to be sperm, there needs to be an egg, right? When they come together, that makes the creation of that pretty vulnerable. Is that you're relying on sperm and you're relying on an egg to intercede well, right? So that another human form of life can be created. So from the very beginning, all of that starts to affect your character. And your character, what I want you to know about your character is that your character is almost like it's the core of you, right? Because it's who you are. So it's like, it's the core. And the core of us must be protected. That's why the Father says that, he said in his word that we are to guard our hearts, for everything flows from it. And that the heart, which is, our core being, is like it's an open door. So like it's something that, what happens with a door, things can come in and things can come out. And so if your character is not protected, then it's going to lead to a lot of self-sabotaging and settling for less than your actual worth. And that's so important to know, because if you don't understand that, you cannot care for yourself during your healing journey. You can't allow others to care for you during your healing journey. And you can't care for other people in your healing journey either. And so the character is a hidden place. It's not something that is exposed easily. And that's why in the Word, God says that He searches our hearts and He finds what's within it. Our Father is searching our hearts. He's searching our character, because He knows that there's a work that needs to be done. And that if we're moving and identifying with the wrong character, it affects everything. It affects our nervous system. It affects our thinking, our speech, the way that we hear things, the way that we receive things, the way that we give things. It affects everything. And of course, it's going to affect all the relationships that are wrapped around life. And it's going to make it very hard for you to receive things that are life-giving if you are identifying with traumatic expressions. So as I said before, this is a keynote, that character is something that's hidden, and that's why God is searching it. He's searching our heart. And so if we move down, right, what happens next after character has been, exposed to traumatic expressions, right? So first, the hidden place is your character. Then next is the expression, right? So there's the traumatic expression, and the traumatic expression is something that's going back between the character, and it's going back and forth with the character, and then it's also going to make another step and affect it. So think of traumatic expressions as something that's in the middle. So you've got your character, you've got your traumatic expressions, and then there's something that's going to come after that. And traumatic expressions is affecting both sides of the spectrum. Okay, so traumatic expressions, what this is created to do is that it is something that reveals your pain. It reveals the painful area in your life that you're looking for, that you may desire to look for a solution regarding. And so that's why it keeps going back and attacking character, is because it thinks that maybe you're the problem, that you weren't good enough, and this is why this happened to you, and this person should have never did this and this and that. And so whatever your pain is, that traumatic expression is communicating with your character back and forth, right? It's communicating with that character back and forth, and it's not going to stop there. It's going to go on to the next bullet point, and that's personality. So now you've got your character, you've got your traumatic expressions, and not only is it attacking character, but it's attacking personality. And so your personality is something that people can see. It's something that's very visible, unlike your character, because your character is hidden. And so people are able to see your pain to a point that maybe only you can, like, it's something that is visible, but it's something that they may not know the depths of, depending on that person's gift and their conscious in their faith. Now, if you were to meet someone that was of faith, they would be able to spot your pain very easily. And hopefully that person would pray with you. And hopefully that person would be able to talk to you. Because sometimes, we come across people that are in so much pain that they don't want any help and they want to do it by themselves. But that's what I'm trying to prepare you for, is to prepare you for that care, right? For you to receive that care, and for you to be doing that towards yourself, to give yourself that care that God is trying to give you and show you as well. So, right, often people see personalities and they think that that's all that it is, and that this person is just like this for this reason and that reason, and then they start to take a false interest in things that really has nothing to do with their destiny. And this is where it becomes very, very confusing. Why people experience confusion is because there's manipulation operating within themselves. There's a manipulation happening within themselves between the traumatic expressions communicating with their character and their personalities. They start to think that they're somebody that they're not. And so this is how people start to get interest in things that they think that they are. And I'll give you an example, and some people may not like this, but I had a really good friend, and I'm still friends with this person, who thought that they were, he thought that he was gay. And so he started to think that this was who he was because of his personality. And it really wasn't focused on too much of who he was, but like, more about these interests, that I had an interest or I had a feeling or a desire, that must be who I am. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that your personality, when the trauma, by the time the traumatic expressions hit personality, you will start to have an interest. You will start to see that being projected into the world of desires, your tone of voice, the way that you talk, the way that you dress. And some of these desires and the way that these traumatic expressions are connecting with or communicating with the personality is that some of these things are false, just like false hope that we talked about a couple segments back, where I believe it was one of the segments where I was talking about false hope. Go find it. It was either traumatic permission or withdrawing from trauma. It was one of those segments. And it's connecting to that false hope that I am something because of the pain I experienced. Or something is for me that's not for me. That's what a false hope basically is that something's for me, that I think something's for me that's not. But I can't see it. So I'm putting all my energy and effort into it, and I'm becoming this thing and pouring into this thing and receiving from this thing. So it starts to attract those people that may be in the same belief system that they are gay as well. And so you start to see all of this wrapped in your life, and you think, well, this must be really who I am. No, this is a false desire. This isn't a true desire from God, is what I'm basically trying to say. And so when you get this false desire, what happens is you start to do things that are not a part of your destiny to do. And this becomes even more dangerous, because what this is doing is this is creating a lack of obedience, a lack of understanding. This is where you see people starting to rely on their own understanding. And sometimes we don't realize that we're doing that because, we have this desire, or we think this is our character, and our traumatic expressions are bouncing back and forth, and there's all this communication that's affecting your DNA. It's affecting the way you think. It's affecting your nervous system, the way you express yourself, all the way down to your personality. So there's some things that we have not been called to do that people are doing right now, even in the ministry work. People are starting and I'm not saying this for everybody, but there's some people think that they're called to heal that they're not. And there's some people that think they're called to be a prophet that are not. And so this can even happen with people who think that they are operating in faith when they're actually operating in trauma. This is why the healing process must be done. You must learn how to care for you before you go caring for others. You must know how to allow God to care for you before you go caring for others, because otherwise your personality is going to do something. It's going to create something in this world, right? Because go back to the law of attraction, right? That is made up of God, right? Is that you're going to start to attract people that are going to want to learn, that are going to talk to you, that are going to be in your space based upon this personality. And if this is not God's will, this can bring a lot of harm to you and others. And again, we talked about how hurt people, heal people. Doesn't mean that you have to be on this perfect journey of like, oh, I'm finished, I'm finally healed, everything's been cleared off. But I need to be at least on this journey for at least a year or 6 months or so, right? Of finding my character, learning how to express myself, really learning what my destiny is, what my purpose is, getting the identity work done and that purpose work done, so that I know that when these new desires hit, I know they're not me. They're from the Lord. Also, if, let's say you have the right desire, but your traumatic expressions are getting in the way, it's going to get in the way of the way you create things. So you could be in the right field of the body, but if you aren't overcoming the traumatic expressions or understand the traumatic expressions, what's going to happen is you're not going to create well. And creating is almost like a sacrifice. It's like a burnt offering that we give to God. And we see this in the Bible with like Cain and Abel, where the father was he was requiring a sacrifice, and we see the difference between the brothers of which sacrifice was sufficient. And this could have been because of this traumatic expressions. We see that what happens is that one of the brothers becomes angry and jealous, right? And he ends up killing the other brother, and then gets cursed over it. So you don't want to fall into the Cain and Abel's situation where you're trying to create something and somebody ends up dying. Okay? And so based upon character and traumatic expressions and personality, the 3 bullet points or milestones, that's what I want to say. The 3 milestones that this affects is it creates a trauma cycle, and it creates a trauma expression, right? Which we've talked about. And get this, guys, all of this equals a traumatic life. And that is not what God has us here for, is to live a traumatic life, but to live a fulfilled life. Jesus Christ said himself, he says, I come so that you can have life more abundantly. So if you think that healing is not a part of that abundant life, then you have not been listening to the word of God. Let your ears hear so that you can develop faith in this journey, because that is what is needed. Your faith, your hope, and your love. 3 gifts that God has instilled in you. He's installed it. But have you found it? Have you grabbed it? Have you allowed what God has gifted you to unlock these areas so that they can be exposed, so that they can be removed, so that what's left over can be multiplied and cared for? Whatever you have left in this season, I'm not talking about your past. I'm talking about what God has given you here, right? Not what you want to go back to, but what God has with you right here. If you care for that, it's going to create abundance. But if there's things that are operating that are trying to affect you, and it's of your past, or it's worry of your future because of your past, there's some work to be done. Okay. But the Father is saying so strongly, guys, he does not want us to live a traumatic life. And this is why we've talked about all of this today. I hope this has blessed you. I hope this has encouraged you. And I say all of these things with love, to care for those wounds, expose them so that we can really see what's going on, so that we can do something about it. There's a solution to your pain, but you have to lean into that solution. You've got to allow other people to help you. So I hope this has ministered to you well. And if you're wanting support, I encourage you to look into our Intimacy Masterclass, where you learn how communication is operating, because communication is a big part of intimacy. Matter of fact, it's the way intimacy connects. And so everything that we've talked about today is a form of intimacy that's happening within the character, within the pain, within the personality, within the desires, within your future, within your past, present, and your future. And who is it attacking? It's attacking you. And you are the greatest gift that God has created for this body of Christ. There is no one else like you. So make sure that you're ministering to that. You're ministering to you allowing people to come in and care for you. So sign up for that Intimacy Masterclass. It is already recorded. You can plug into it, watch it as many times as you need to, up to a limited time. I believe it's a week that you have, 7 days to plug in and soak it all in. Because we actually received a testimony the other day that's the masterclass and the videos on top of it, all of it, everything that we've given to this person has blessed them, and they're taking time to absorb it, which means it's a lot to chew on. So we want to make sure that you're fed, because that is our mission, is to care for those areas, making sure that you're nourished. So plug into that so that you can be nourished. There's faith building exercises, hope exercises, and love exercises going to help you build more communication within you. Okay? So if this has encouraged you, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell to be notified, comment below, show us some love. We're showing you love. Let us know how this has impacted you. Is it blessing you? Does it resonate with you? How can we pray for you? Let us know so that we can care for you even better. And until next time, guys, remain putting your hope in God and have a blessed day.